Diplomats reached a deal. Both sides agreed on the terms. The war was one signature away from pausing, and then Trump read it and sent it back. That's where we are right now with the US-Iran ceasefire. Negotiators spent weeks hammering out a 14-point memorandum of understanding. Then, just hours before it was supposed to land on the president's desk, he tightened the terms, rewrote it, sent the whole thing back to Tehran. So here's the question you need to sit with. Is Trump actually trying to close this deal, or is he negotiating against his own negotiators? So what actually happened in the last 72 hours? Here's the timeline. The war started on February 28th when the US and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury, striking Iranian military and nuclear infrastructure. Iran retaliated by effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz. That single move choked off roughly 20% of the world's traded oil and gas. A fragile ceasefire began on April 8th, but both sides kept trading strikes. Then, on Thursday, May 29th, US and Iranian negotiators finally reached a tentative memorandum of understanding, a 60-day ceasefire extension, plus a new round of nuclear talks. Iran had 440.9 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% purity. That's one technical step from weapons grade. The MOU was supposed to start resolving that, but Trump held a Situation Room meeting Friday and made no decision. Then by Saturday, reports confirmed he sent back a toughened version of the deal. A senior U.S. official told Axios it could take up to a week for Iran to respond. Another official noted, with startling casualness, that Iran's negotiators are literally in caves. Meanwhile, VP Vance confirmed Thursday night there was a tentative agreement, but said, and I'm quoting directly here, "It's hard to say exactly when or if the president's going to sign." That's not reassuring language from your vice president. But here's what's interesting, and this is the part that isn't in the headline. The official reason for the delay is that Trump wants tougher terms on Iran's nuclear stockpile. Fine. But look at what his own VP said Thursday night about the war's goals. Vance said, again, direct quote, that the US is in a position where we could substantially set back their nuclear program. Not eliminate, not destroy. Substantially set back. Compare that to what Trump said at the start of this conflict. Iran would never ever have a nuclear weapon. Full stop. That is a massive shift. The goalposts moved quietly in a single sentence from zero nuclear capability to we slowed them down. And there's another contradiction hiding in plain sight. The same week the US reached this tentative deal, the Treasury Department imposed new sanctions on Iran's oil sales agency. You're negotiating with someone and sanctioning them at the same time. That's not a peace process. That's a pressure tactic that could blow the whole thing up before Trump even signs. For ordinary Americans, here's the concrete impact. Brent crude oil has already dropped nearly 19% in May, its worst monthly drop since COVID, purely on hopes that this deal gets done. Treasury Secretary Bessent said Thursday that oil prices could come down very quickly once a deal is finalized. But Saudi Aramco CEO issued a stark warning just this week. He said if the Strait of Hormuz doesn't fully reopen in the next few weeks, oil market normalization won't happen until 2027. That means elevated gas prices, higher inflation, and more pressure on the Fed for another year. This deal isn't just a geopolitical story. Every week it drags on is money coming out of your wallet. Now, the other argument is that Trump is doing exactly what a tough negotiator should do. He got a deal on the table, now he's pushing for better terms. Maximum pressure has worked before, Iran is weakened, why not extract more? That argument is genuinely reasonable. The problem with it is the timing. Iran's chief nuclear negotiator said on Sunday that Tehran will not agree to anything unless it fully secures Iranian rights. That's not the language of a side getting ready to sign. Pushing harder right now risks collapsing the deal entirely and restarting a war that's already depleted US munitions and pushed oil to $100 a barrel. Here's my read on what's actually happening. Trump doesn't want to own a bad deal more than he wants to end the war. He's watching the midterms, he's watching oil prices, and he knows that if he signs something and Iran violates it 3 weeks later, that's on him. So he's tightening the language, not to get a better outcome, but to give himself cover. The problem is Iran is also stalling. Their parliament speaker said Sunday there's no trust in the enemy's words. Both sides are performing toughness for their domestic audiences. My read, a modified deal gets signed within the next 10 days, not because either side wants to, but because oil markets and US munition stockpiles leave no other option. Watch for Trump to frame whatever he signs as a total American victory, and watch for Iran to say the exact same thing in Farsi. The real question won't be answered for months. What happens when the 60-day clock runs out and the nuclear stockpile is still sitting there? So here's what I want you to think about and drop in the comments below. If Trump signs a deal where Iran keeps its enrichment capability, even temporarily, does that count as winning the war? Or did the US just spend 3 months of military operations, skyrocketing oil prices, and depleted weapon stockpiles to end up roughly where